Morning, guys. Will, just in time prepping. How is everybody doing this morning? All right, after we did the update yesterday on the book Survivors by Angela White, we're going to go right into chapter 5 this morning. It's titled Adrian Mitchell, and she is in California. Let's see what happens. Less than half a minute had passed when another wave of destruction rushed out, one of pressure and wind at levels not even buildings, let alone people, could withstand. Those who had time to get below ground did so, but they were not as safe as they thought they would be, especially in California, where the big one finally came. It went normally unnoticed. People were already busy dying. Is it true? Are you his son? Adrian opened his mouth to confirm the lethal secret he had just been confronted with by his fellow Greenpeace members, but he snapped it shut as the neighborhood sirens wailed again. The radio blared out a reporter's shocked words. Has been unlike anything my generation has ever experienced. We are watching in horror as these bombs hit, and it's so ugly. Huge fireballs instantly creating gaping 50-mile-wide craters around the point of impact and the blast of all those buildings, cars, and people into the sky. As it rises, it forms gigantic, toxic black mushroom cloud that immediately begins to spread with the wind. Instantly following these explosions are met rushes of thermal heat and the light that shoot out in every direction, peeling skin away from the bones, blinding every living thing facing that direction. The temperatures are in the hundreds of degrees, and those in the path have no chance of escaping as our way of life comes crashing down. The station faded into a national anthem as the city siren reached a peak. Ear-splitting and overwhelmed for a brief second, the horrible noises going on outside the small San Bernardino ranch home and across the riot-ravaged country. Adrian's patriotic heart bled for people he didn't even know. The powerful secret he had held for so long seemed tiny in comparison, but it wasn't. It was the sum of all secrets. Likely it was the reason their world was ending. The radio on the basement steps wailed again, mirroring previous sounds of arriving warheads. Adrian stepped under the protective planks next to the Christmas tree as the dozen angry men surrounded him, shocked and outrage on their faces. You caused this. Adrian had a brief moment to think. He was glad that most of those who had come for the meeting had already fled at the reports of a bomb hitting the Capitol. But even this dozen wasn't too many to fight unarmed if the things got ugly. Good thing he wasn't unarmed. How had they found out? Answer that question. Tell the truth. The furious men came at him in the plastic tree, and the presents went flying when he tried to use them for a shield. We'll beat it out of you. Did you know the war was coming? Did you help them hide it? Their faces and voices were full of hate, demanding answers. Again, Adrian started to answer the demands, but he was cut off, this time by a vicious rumbling that came hard and fast. Dust from the stairs fell all over them as it pounded through the rock and stone. Adrian had been in enough hot landing zones to recognize that danger, and he threw himself into the tiled floor, putting a hand on the gat in his pocket as some of the men followed his lead. Others lunged his way, thinking he was trying to escape. Get him! Incoming! Get down! The walls above them exploded, and an instant later blown away like brittle leaves in the fall. And then the small, neat house above crumbled, burying them all alive. Chapter 6, Angela White, Ohio. These were the first and most direct effects of the war on American soil. It was the beginning of a hard new world where authority disappeared in less than one day. Calm, arrogant safety vanished and took with the rest of the society's perceived protections that had always been taken for granted, like calling 911. He didn't say Fort Defiance, he didn't. Angela dropped the stained hospital scrubs she had changed out of and gripped the chair in stunned agony, oblivious to the gunshots and talking of the impact over 1,200 miles from her Cincinnati home. Latest word is 5 million dead and another 2 million injured or exposed, and the cloud is moving west-northwest towards the Alabama state line at 37 miles per hour. Cape David is gone. Houston, all of the coastal oil refineries. Charlie? The woman slid her knees on the plush carpet of the two-bedroom apartment, the agony in her chest worse than the bands of pressure clamping around her stomach pushing down. Footsteps thudded in the halls outside her door, followed by more shouts. Both went unnoticed. It can't be. The cell phone slid out of her hand, liquid suddenly oozing down her thighs and swollen legs as Christmas lights flashed mockingly in place of emergency blinkers. I would know, she cried, suddenly doubling over. I would know. The door in her mind rattled and she gruntled in pain, trying to draw on a gift she had locked away over a decade ago, but she was weak and those magic claws remained shut. Her forehead thumped on the carpet as pain, raw and sharp, tore through her abdomen. Darkness flooded her mind. Now, unheard, an emotionless voice echoed calmly. Please hold. The next available operator will assist you. 911 estimated wait time 2 hours, 14 minutes. The system is currently experiencing heavy call volumes. If this is not an emergency, please hang up and try your call again. Service outages can be expected in some areas. Please continue to hold. And on the TV behind her, the horrified reporter continued to describe what was happening, but few people were listening. The end had come. Chicago barrier gave way, and the millions of gallons of debris filled water-barreled downstream, overwhelming towns and cities for 40 miles before joining the Wabash River, swelling it even more. It had poured down every stream, sewer, creek, and river it touched, sweeping away thousands of people in each state. The merciless torrent split briefly between the Wabash and the Mississippi rivers, widening the path and damaging, and then merged again in Louisiana, where it finally punched a hole through the city of Baton Rouge and emptied into the already flooded Gulf. In an ironic twist, the ancient New Madrid fault line under St. Louis also woke today, causing a 7.7 earthquake that had leveled untouched areas. Aftershocks are being felt as far away as Kansas City and Louisville. Places like Humboldt and Jonesboro have simply collapsed like dominoes, already weakened by the surge of debris-filled waves. Okay, Chapter 7. I'm going to go ahead and read it, you guys. Arizona. Ken Harrison. Once again, a target for the government they represented, the military, was especially hit hard. Most of the servicemen and women who survived later denied they were ever part of any armed force. As few as 3 of every 10 came through the war alive. Despite being so well trained, most of the deaths came from attacks by individuals in their own groups and from their neighbors who had ended up with desperation on their side. Even those who were still following orders didn't have any easy time of it. They became walking targets. Damn! Ken ducked, pushing the muddy hard back as fast as he could go. Fort Defiance was under siege. Furious and terrified citizens were trying to get over and through the 10-foot-high electric fence that surrounded the 17-mile-wide compound. It sounded like a giant bug zapper Poles, cars, furniture, even people were being used to try to break the live wires, but so far the strong magnetic force had held. It didn't keep out the bullets, though, and the Marine pulled over his cover over a tighter of his popping grooves steadier. Almost rhythmic, someone out there was firing an assault rifle. Ken's grip on the wheel tightened. Knuckles white, he hated the feeling of near panic that lurked under the surface. He had gone there first. Choppers were swarming over the grounds of the base, trying to evacuate the Marines and draftees, but the violent winds gusting from their direction of Houston made landing difficult. It might have given him a chance. In the past, the weather was the worst challenge the pilots had ever had to face here. Now it was the least of their worries. Arriving birds were being blown out of the smoky skies before they could even descend to safety, crashing, exploding, and flinging and twisted metal debris into the screaming mob of rioters. A few of the aircraft were only damaged and crashed later in a remote location, but many were lost on the scene. The telephone poles and the grenade launchers were hard for the overloaded choppers to avoid, and in short, it was mayhem. Yes, the cadet barracks came into full view through the thicket of trees. He has to be here. Men shouted. Hungry rioters screamed. Guns fired, and the gust of the violent gust of stomach-churning wind pushed against the truck, slowing it down. The sky above the base roiled with thick red clouds that flushed angrily, and the black flakes fell like a blizzard, coating everything with a heavy layer of soot that looked like an ash from a volcano. Ken looked up suddenly, the shadow of the chopper passing overhead, not what drew his attention, but the silence of its engines. He stared in shock as the big bird began to spiral down toward him. Ken mashed the pedal and ducked as the chopper spun past, but the truck's engine had died too, and the hardback didn't respond. He met the eyes of the horrified pilot for a brief second before the chopper hit the main dorm and exploded. Orange flames and thick black smoke billowed upward. Ken's heart froze as the cheers and the screams of those outside the fences grew louder. Hungrier. If the boy had been in there, he was dead now. No one could have survived that. All right, you guys, that's it for today. Sounds like all heck is breaking loose here. So hopefully by next week we'll have it all figured out, and things will go a little better for these folks. As you guys know, it's a great doing these things for you guys, and I couldn't do any of it without you. So until next time, thanks for listening. I'll catch you out there on the tube.